fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gen. Oh, fuck yeah.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a car that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Brilliant, look at defense by Ethan Grigol, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. Just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest, and
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up to the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and
Hi everyone, I'm Lockie Mansell. Welcome to SimSpeed TV for week 7, season 2 of the Just Ended iRacing series, the place where the brightest talents in the online racing world get to race head-to-head against real-life motorsport heroes. This week, it's all about some of the highest downforce cars in the world, tackling a circuit with iconic corners such as La Source, Eau Rouge, Lacombe and Blanchimont. Yep, we're at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, and we're in radical SR8s this week. Joining me in commentary tonight, it's a very good evening to Jay Kennedy. Welcome, Jay. What are you most looking forward to tonight?
Oh, obviously it has to be Sens. It's always about the Sens, but a really cool track and a really cool car. A lot of drivers were struggling early on in the warm-up session and the qualifying session, but once they found their feet, we've seen some really quick pace, and I think we're going to see a really close race. We saw in the iRacing V8 race that we had here last night. The racing is really tough at this circuit if you're in a car that produces a lot of draft. We're going to see a big draft pack, which will mean that we're going to see a lot of overtaking and a lot of strategy play in this race. I think the strategy, that going with the pit stops, which return this week as well, we're going to have a hell of a show.
We'll talk a bit more about the strategy shortly, but before we get there, I just want to talk about the cars, because at the end of last year, I was fortunate enough to get invited to go for a ride in a real-life Radical SR3, which is the 4-cylinder motorcycle engine version of the Radical race car at Sydney Motorsport Park. And the amount of G-force that those cars carry is just insane. Like through turn 1 at Sydney Motorsport Park, we were doing, I think, about 223 k's an hour on the entry to the corner, and we were holding about 215 all the way around the corner. And you can imagine that sitting in the passenger seat of one of those things, you can really feel the G-forces. That's the 4-cylinder version at Sydney Motorsport Park. Can you imagine racing the SR8, which is the V8 powered version, at a track like Spa, where you've got a corner like Eau Rouge, the G-forces would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm sort of lucky to think that we've got it in sim, because I don't think I'd want to race it around Spa, because it would probably crush your chest going up through Eau Rouge Radion. But it's a phenomenal circuit too. The pace that these cars have, when you think about how small they are, and as you said, a V8 engine as well. V8 around Spa does a lap in around about 2 minutes 20, 2 minutes 22. These cars do it in 2:13 to 2:15, so the pace is pretty incredible. As you said too, the downforce is always pretty cool around here too, but this is one of the best tracks we have in the world, and to have it on iRacing is pretty cool, and to see the guys go out there tonight, guys and girls go out there tonight to race this circuit is going to be pretty fun.
Here's a look at some of the essential track facts for you. Of course, it's a circuit that is a regular fixture on the calendar for the Formula One World Championship, and it's got plenty of iconic corners. We've already talked about Eau Rouge Lacombe. That's one of the main overtaking opportunities on the circuit, because it's the point where you brake hard after the long Kemmel Straight, which will be a spot on the track where we do see a lot of that drafting and slipstreaming. You head down the hill into the Brussels and Rivage area, through Pujon, which is a long sweeping left-hander. The run into Campus, that's an overtaking opportunity as well. Another circuit where you'll really see the downforce of these cars coming into play. Blanchimont, then the big stop into the bus stop, which is another one of the primary overtaking opportunities, along with the La Source hairpin at turn number 1. And with a field of over 50 cars set to line up for this race tonight for Just Send It, we're going to be seeing plenty of sends at turn 1, but on the opening lap, do we reckon we can get all 50 or so cars through there without incident? Survey probably says no, Joe.
100% no. There's no way that they're getting through there safe. But the good thing tonight, as we said, the pit stops return, so drivers can get in, get their cars fixed. We are giving everyone a spare car to be able to get into straight away, so they can get back out on track. Safety car returns tonight too. So we're back to the 40-minute format. Safety car, pit stops. Who knows what's going to happen? All we know is there's going to be sends, and it's going to be good fun.
Speaking of the safety car, something a little bit different with that tonight. The power and the decision about when the safety car comes out has been left in the hands of the broadcast team. So Jay has a bright red button, and when he presses that button, that's when the safety car comes out. I'll tell you what, I wish that in real life motorsport, the discretion about when the safety car could come out was left in the hands of the commentators.
Would be good fun, like some of those races that you have that maybe are a little bit longer than you'd probably like, or you know that go on a drag through that mid phase a little bit longer than you'd expect. You probably want a safety car. Now, for those drivers that are tuning in, wondering what has happened, the session is being built in the background. There were some issues with the configuration of the tournament in the background, so it will be up for the drivers to join in a second. So you haven't missed it. You haven't missed out on anything. You're just missing or enjoying listening to us talk rubbish for a few minutes. That's all you're enjoying, and it's not a bad thing, is it?
Well, I can just hear all of the real-life racing drivers who've just heard me saying that I'd like the power to decide when safety cars come out in real-life races. I can hear them screaming at the TV, no, don't do that. There's no way we want Lockie to be making those sorts of decisions. It'll ruin the race.
What we were thinking, though, is that those of you that are watching, give us a little hoi hoi when you think that the race might need a little bit of spicing up with a safety car. That could be something interesting later on. We'll decide at the end of the day when it comes, but we'll work it out, and we'll make sure that it does provide a spicy and interesting ending to the race. What that does mean is some drivers are going to have to think, now that they've heard this, about when they're going to jump in and do that pit stop, because they don't want to be caught out at the wrong time.
100% right. We saw it on several occasions, didn't we, in Season 1 of Just Send It, where there were drivers who left their pit stops late and then they got trapped by the safety car, because in iRacing, once the safety car comes out, the pit lane is closed for a lap. You can't pit till the field has been bunched up behind the safety car, and that hands a big advantage to the drivers who are taking their pit stop before the safety car's been called.
Yeah, exactly right. iRacing safety car's built off the NASCAR rule set, so yellow flag is called, pit lane is closed, the pace car gathers the field up, then the pit lane opens the next lap by, and then we'll go green flag racing again. So, yeah, it does provide a little bit of an interesting strategy with it not being the same road rule set, but those drivers that are all over it will be well and truly in with a really good shot. The other interesting thing too is that we're running the endurance layout for this race. So the finish line is the normal traditional GP finish line, but the start line is in the run up to Eau Rouge. So the other part with that is it's the extended pit lane, meaning that you actually have to go through the GP pit lane all the way around, and then through the endurance, the 24-hour race pit lane as well. It takes about a minute just to drive down the pit lane without taking your pit stop.
So it means you rejoin the circuit on the run up the hill towards Eau Rouge. I am actually quite relieved, though, Jay, to hear that we are using the endurance layout, because that takes away some of that possibility of trauma at the La Source hairpin at the start of the race. I could just see, I had visions in my head of 50-plus cars filing down into that hairpin on lap number 1, and then just being absolute pandemonium with that number of cars all piling into a really tight right-hand hairpin. Don't get me wrong, I still think there'll be some incidents and some drivers that'll maybe not manage to negotiate their way through Eau Rouge safely on the opening lap, but it's probably a bit less risky than trying to have the whole field barreling into that hairpin at the start.
Yeah, exactly right. I think you know, we're probably still going to see 4 wide up through Eau Rouge and Radion, but it will mean that we might be a little bit safer on the run up. We'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed we end up with a fairly clean start, but I think once we get back down halfway around the circuit on the second lap, we might see a little bit more messiness, but we'll see how it plays out. Worst comes to worst, we end up with an early safety car to get everyone back into the race. Best case scenario is we see a fairly clean start and we have to call it rather late, or there's always a chance that we may not call it at all if it's very, very clean.
So vision coming in now from the circuit to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, which is good to see. This will be a warm-up session, so the grid positions have already been determined by a couple of split qualifying sessions. So just to clarify, we are back to the original format that was used in Season 1 of Just Send It, where we have the split qualifying format, give everybody the chance to have some clear track to record lap times, and then a single race with a pit stop. We've fiddled around, we've trialled a few different race formats for Season 2. We had the twin race format with the reverse grid, then we changed for the last few weeks to a format where we had an all-in qualifying session and then a single race. Feedback from the drivers was that with so many cars in the field, it was really hard in those qualifying sessions to get a clear lap. So the series organisers have taken that feedback on board. They've gone back to a split qualifying format, and I suppose in return to tradition as well, going to that longer race format with pit stop, which you would have to say worked pretty well in Season 1 of Just Send It.
Yeah, it's a format we know that works, which is a good thing. That we've tried a few things. The 2-race format worked in some aspects because it was quite enjoyable and entertaining. It was just very, very tough with that big gap in the middle of the 2 races while everything was reset. So drivers pretty much overall weren't dissatisfied with this format. It was probably overall the best format that we've run in regards to driver feedback. So we're going back to basics and running the old KISS method, and driver on screen is going to start this one from pole. So Ross Rizzo, the only driver to do a 2-minute 13 in the practice session or in the qualifying session. That is some really quick pace when you think about what lap times other cars do around this circuit. Compare it to like GT3s and things like that. That is a really quick lap.
If we go back through the results of Just Send It for this season, the news is that we've had 9 different race winners from the 9 races that we've had so far. So a bit like what we saw in Season 1, a good diversity of different race winners. And Ross Rizzo is not on the winners list so far, so he'll be looking to chalk up his first race victory of the season tonight.
Driver on screen, though, has probably been the most consistent in our pretend not real championship that we keep a tally of each week. This man is leading the championship. He's surprised he's not in 6th. He was 6th in his practice session, in his qualifying session, but Brenton Hobson been the most consistent driver throughout Just Send It so far this season. Well, this season it is, because we did start it late last year. So Brenton Hobson's been one of the more consistent drivers throughout. So he leads the mock championship, and no surprise to hear who's in second, that being Andrew Collins, the most consistent man we've had over the entirety of Just Send It.
Yeah, Andrew Collins was the hypothetical champion in Season 1, but when we look at the results from Season 2, Brenton Hobson, he's been really, really consistent. He's scored points in every single race, and he's had a race victory as well, so not a surprise to see him sitting at the top of the championship standings. Let's talk a bit more about the cars that they're racing. So it is the Radical SR8 powered by a 2.7 litre V8 engine driven through a 6-speed sequential gearbox with paddle shift, and of course it is a derivative of the Radical SR3, which has been quite a popular prototype style of race car for quite a few seasons. And one of the great attractions of these cars is the fact that they do have a passenger seat in them, which, apart from the owners of the cars being able to use that passenger seat to take unsuspecting passengers like myself for a hot lap, it also means that they can have driver coaches jump in and give them a bit of advice on how to fine-tune their driving technique. And that's made them a very popular car throughout all of the different customer markets right around the world for gentlemen and recreational racers who might not necessarily have had that much experience in other categories.
Yeah, and it's proving to be a more and more popular class here in Australia as well. You think about prototype cars, you don't really think in Australia that prototype cars are overly popular, but the Radical class as a whole grows each time you see it out on track. We're just slowly getting more and more around Australia as it goes on, and as you said, it's a really popular choice for driver coaching, as well as it's more of an entry level into that prototype style car as well. I mean, it's not a cheap car to run and drive, but when you compare it to LMP3, things like that, it is a much cheaper and more competitive option at this stage in Australia.
And what we've seen is drivers like Neil Muston and more recently Liam Talbot, who've come out of the Radical Australia Cup and then gone on to achieve success in other high downforce cars, GT and Carrera Cup cars in the case of Liam Talbot, prototype cars such as LMP3 cars in the case of Neil Muston. So they are a good breeding ground for drivers to get used to those high aero types of race cars.
We're about to get our start grid up on screen, and looks like we will have a rolling start. Yes, we will have a rolling start, so it gives us a bit of extra time.
Some good named drivers there starting in the top 10. Some pretty accomplished steerers in the sim and real life racing worlds. Ross Rizzo starting on pole position. Cody Bircher in at second spot on the grid, the Formula Ford race. And we go back to Chris Owen in third spot. Jake Maloney out of position 4. Cooper Webster, who was the race winner last week at Monza in the Ferrari. He'll go from grid position 5 back then to Job Stewart in 6th. Mitchell McLeod 7th. Michael Hammond, Michael Cutajar, and Max Carter rounding out your top 10.
We've got Lewis Polo Gallen, another winner from this season in Just Send It, in 11th with Matthew Trotman alongside. Dom Ferraris, another winner in Just Send It. Familiar name to those of you that watch Supercars and Super 2. That being Brody Kostecki. We've got Phil Letchford and Luke Ansett. Steve Owen back once again. We can't keep him out of Just Send It. He keeps on coming back each and every week, which is great to see. Joseph de Jesus IV in 18th position. Michael Healy and Jonathan Bykoff in 19th and 20th position. Now, before we go to the next page, one thing I want to point out is the driver's going to have to be careful because they won't receive the green flag until they run down into between turn 1 and turn 3, the run to Eau Rouge. But the safety car will pull off here at the pit entry. Some drivers in the mid-pack might get confused by that, and that could cause some issues. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, watch out for that. Christina Nazarick out of 21st position. Brenton Hobson, our current points leader. A bit of work to do starting further back in the pack out of 22nd. Nathan Hearn, the T82 racer, starts out of grid position 23. Back to Dave Oliver, Josh Rogers and Guy Lynch. Then it's Emerson Harvey ahead of Justin Ruggier, Christopher Henn and Brenton West in position 30.
Well, I guess they haven't worried about when the green light's going to come and the green flag because they've already gone. No surprise to see that the pack's ready and keen to get racing. But good jump from Ross Rizzo as they get the green flag right now.
So underway, and Ross Rizzo already with a good lead, but how much of a lead will that be when they get to Lacoon? Because we know that it'll be slipstreaming central down the long straight here at Spa. Looks like most of the front-running pack have been able to safely negotiate their way through Eau Rouge, but back in the pack, a little bit of drama. Oh, big crash there, and a couple of cars getting flipped over. A couple of other cars having to take some avoiding action to try and avoid that incident, but just as we predicted, a little bit of pandemonium unfolding on this opening lap, and we've had a lead change. In fact, a couple of cars have got past Ross Rizzo, so just to demonstrate the power of the slipstream, Cody Bircher has gone to the lead and Cooper Webster up to second.
And this is like a replay of last night. Those that watched the iRacing V8 series here on SimSpeed, last night Cooper Webster was in that lead pack and was holding back the lead pack to help his teammate in James Scott. So a little bit of battling between other drivers. He hasn't got a teammate ahead of him this time, but Cooper Webster familiar to that second position. Rizzo is quick in these cars. He's not going to want to stay in second for long.
Sends it down the inside into the right-hander at turn 13 into Campus. Can Cooper Webster get the switch back? No, because Ross Rizzo slows it up at the apex to make sure that Webster didn't have the chance to get on the power early to try and recapture that position. We look a little bit further back in the pack. Watch out for Josh Rogers. This has been a bit of a pattern for him the last few weeks, is that he likes to start a bit further down the grid and give himself the challenge of charging up through the field. You know that he is one of the best sim racers in the world, so he likes giving himself the challenge of having to overtake cars rather than just driving away from the front.
Got a crash on the run into Blanchimont. That's a strange spot to crash there for Michael Hammond as he's rejoined it. Oh, around goes another car, and that's Brenton Hobson. We said that Hobbo had been doing well. Well, there's the commentator's curse just on him for saying that he'd been doing well. It was Zach Bates around as well, so that was a huge crash for not only Hobson but also for Hammond. I think we need another look at those ones, and we'll try and get a replay of the start as well, because we've had some big incidents in this race so far. There was actually contact there between Bates. Yeah, so Bates has actually hit the car of Hobson there.
And then once Bates has got into the bus stop, he's had another incident all on his own. It could have been that he was on the dirty side of the racetrack. No, there wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't.
Was there contact? I don't reckon there was.
No.
I reckon Brenton Hobson's actually done that unassisted.
I think you're right. I think he's done that one all on his own. Go back to the start of the race though, because at the front of the field there was chaos aplenty. And it come from the front of the field as well, because we saw our almost pole sitter. So this is Luis Paulo Gallon. You see in the background there's a fair bit of action there. I think there was Max Carter was involved in that, but you'll see at the front here, there's the pass for the lead. Watch Gallon in this mid-pack here. No. Actually, he's had an incident a little bit further on in the race. We might not be able to get that, but come back live. Jake Maloney's just lost a heap of ground. Ross Rizzo's got back in the lead of the race though.
So he's been able to slipstream his way back to the front. So he leads ahead of Cooper Webster. Cody Bircher's been relegated back to third position. And what these drivers will be doing at this stage, Jay, is they'll be trying to work out just how effective the slipstream is, because you have to work out whether you want to be leading at the start of the last lap, or if it's actually better off being a couple of positions back so that you can get the slingshot tow from the cars ahead. Just seen a spin from our Dunlop Super 2 Series competitor Brody Kostecki as well.
Oh.
Oh.
So that was that Job Stewart that he made contact with? It was. So that was a bit of a strange incident there. I think Kostecki's just absolutely missed his braking point. And Job Stewart became the braking marker there. So unfortunate, but very, very easy to do in these sort of cars because they have such great braking performance. Stewart able to continue on with that fairly damaged wing. Kostecki's got it going again, but they're both in the pits now.
That was actually a pretty good save from Job Stewart. He did well to only have a half spin and to not lose too much out of it. We turn our attention back to the battle for the lead. Ross Rizzo, we ride on board with him up out of Eau Rouge, and he's right on the tail, bump drafting our race leader Cooper Webster as they head back to the Kemmel Straight to begin another lap. And Webster moving to the inside to defend.
McLeod!
Mitchell McLeod comes from the clouds to make the move around the outside.
He went from 4th to 1st in the run down the Kemmel Straight. That is an incredible move in his car that is a Spa. Thought he better make his Radical look like a Spa for the race at Spa. Once again, Mitch continuing the run of very, very bizarre but interesting paints that he's had. I don't think he's going to hold on to this lead for too long. This isn't a car he drives a lot. He's got some very, very quick drivers behind him, but front four have broken a fairly decent gap now. They're out to nearly 2-second gap over Dom Ferraris, but have a look at who's up into 5th already. Josh Rogers.
Unfortunately, I've actually lost vision of what's happening on the track, so at this point I'm looking at the timing and trying to read the race that way, but continue on.
I'll try and sort that out for you now, as Dom Ferraris actually rolled it over there. And Mitchell McLeod, who we saw in the lead, we're going to stay on this replay here, because coming up through Pouan, he's lost it, or almost looped it. Continues on, but as he's tried to regather it, he's lost it out on the rough tarmac on the outside of the corner. And, well, he had the lead for, what, 25 seconds, but it's gone again. Cooper Webster back in the lead of the race. Cody Birch is second. Ross Rizzo third. Josh Rogers started back, what, row 12 or something like that?
And he's up to 4th, and I do now have pictures back as well, thankfully.
Started 25th, up into 4th. Incredible run. Rizzo around the outside at the bus stop. Webster's deciding to pit now. Interesting call.
Could be a very, very smart call as well. So I'm going to make the assumption that, a bit like Season 1 of Just Send It, they've been restricted to the amount of fuel that they can have on board. So that's the way of creating a pit stop, is by making it that the drivers can't get to the end of the race with a restricted amount of fuel without making a pit stop for a top-up.
Yep. So as far as I know, that's what has happened as well. Of course, fixed setup as well, so everyone's running identical cars, which just makes the pace of Josh Rogers even better. His lap just then doesn't register as official fastest lap, as Cody Bircher will take the lead. He did a 2 minute 13.2. He did cut one of the corners, which invalidated his official lap time. That's 1.3 seconds faster than our official fastest lap in this race. Oh, 3 wide down the Kemmel Straight. That's Steve Owen and Luke Arnett, Justin Rougier. Rougier will take the lead in that little battle pack.
So that moves Rougier up into position 7. Just keeping an eye on the pit stop situation as well. So Cooper Webster, Glenn Postlethwaite and Dominic Ferraris all in the pits. And we were talking at the top of the show about just how long the transit time is through pit lane. Well, I can tell you that Cooper Webster has been in the pits for 1 minute and 14 seconds. So that just gives you an idea of how long it takes to transit through pit lane. The actual stationary time was only 13 seconds. So there's about a 60 or 61 second transit time there, and unfortunately a big shunt in the mid-pack.
And have a look at who's involved. Steve Owen's involved. And have a look at who comes through and makes contact. Mitchell McLeod. Oh, and who's that flying into the sky there? Was that it was Brian Borg? He shot off to the stars.
Mitchell McLeod and Steve Owen haven't missed each other this season, have they?
I think they've been in contact with each other more than on the track itself. We're just watching a replay too of Emerson Harvey. Now, remember I said earlier that the guys were having a bit of issues, a few issues with how the track was behaving with these cars. So have a look at who's about to take the lead of this race. Josh Rogers in the lead after only 4 laps of racing from 25th on the grid. He is a freak.
Well, his fastest lap time of the race, 2 minutes 13.2, which he achieved last time around. The next best lap time that's been achieved by anybody else is, we've got a couple that are in the 14s. Justin Rougier has done a 14.8. Louis Paulo going a 14.3. But the point is that Josh Rogers has gone a second quicker than what anybody else has been able to achieve.
He is a freak, absolute freak. Lewis Paulo Gallant's just had a little lose as well. He's another driver in the 14s who's trying to recover and get back out to the front, but Josh Rogers might have to watch out from behind here. Rizzo would probably be smart to maybe save a little bit of fuel here. Follow... Oh, mistake there from Josh Rogers. But follow Rogers, save a bit of fuel, and then try and jump him in the pit stop when it does come in the next little bit.
That's not something you see very often, is it? Josh Rogers making mistakes. More pit stops starting to happen now as well. Cody Bircher in the pits. Mitchell McLeod and Brian Borg both in the pits as well.
How did Borgie drive that back to the pits is my question. After that launch that he had, he almost did a somersault, but he's made it around. Limped it around, literally. So some incredible driving to get that car back to the pits. But Josh Rogers, as you said, he's a freak. won the Daytona 24 on the weekend with his team, Commander Simsport, so they did a very, very good job. Knows how to drive these prototypes quite well. He knows how to drive anything well, actually.
So out of the drivers who've made pit stops so far, Cooper Webster the best placed of those, sitting in 13th position. So strategically, he's pretty well placed if the safety car was to come out within the next couple of minutes, you would have to say.
Is that a hint, or we're letting it go for a bit longer?
I was trying to make it subtle, but we'll see.
Oh, we don't need to be subtle. It's just send it. We're all about having fun and a bit of a laugh. If you have missed what we're just talking about, we have got the power tonight. We have been given the keys to the safety car, and we can throw it any time that we would like. Literally, if we wanted to do it right now, we could. Or we could try and wait and try and screw over Josh Rogers. That's probably the more likely plan. As official fastest lap of the race is now to Ross Rizzo with a 13.9.
So he had the benefit of the slipstream from Josh Rogers that time through, and also just by following another competitor, you get to see what sort of racing lines they take, so it probably helps Ross Rizzo as well, being able to sit in behind Josh Rogers and watch how he's attacking the circuit.
The downside to that is, you know how good he is. There's a chance that he'll just break away and pull away from you really, really quickly. But at the moment, he's staying within a second. We see in iRacing around about a second to 1.2 seconds is drafting range. So as long as he stays in that area, he'll be okay. Recovery drive for a few of those drivers that we have seen have issues. Brenton Hobson back out on track in 18th position. Job Stewart, who has made his stop, is continuing on in 17th. What have we got down the field a little bit? Steve Owen in 29th position. We've had a few DNFs already. Brody Kostecki, after his issue, he's already out of the race, unfortunately. But still got over half of our field deciding that they want to keep going and continuing on, because this is a very challenging car. But once you work it out, it is a very, very rewarding car to drive.
Just like the real-life Radical SR8, because it's such a lightweight car, but it produces so much horsepower, it can bite you if you don't respect it, but at the same time, like you say, when you do get it right, it can be very rewarding as well. Watching Josh Rogers on screen at the moment.
Safety car is out.
And there we go. So Jay Kennedy's made the call, and the safety car's been called. And just as we've seen in previous seasons of Just Send It, that will very much work to the advantage of people who have already made their pit stop. The best of those, Cooper Webster, who currently sits in 10th position. Cody Birch, by my calculations, the second highest placed car that's done a pit stop ahead of Chris Owen, Job Stewart, Brenton Hobson, who was involved in an incident earlier in the race, but this is going to bring him right back into it, this safety car. Emerson Harvey, Glenn Postlethwaite, Will Longmore and Lewis Paul O'Gallen will be right in the game as well. So the top 9 cars that have not pitted, they're going to get trapped out on the circuit under this caution. They're going to fall right back down the field when they jump into the pits to take their stops.
I think the big advantage, though, that they have over other events is that there's not as many cars out on the circuit as what we would normally see. So first things first is we've only got a 43 car field to start with. And the second part is there's now only 31 cars left in the event. So they're not going to drop too far down. And we've already seen how quickly Josh Rogers can move through the field. So I don't think he's going to be too displeased with it. Ross Rizzo, on the other hand, might be a little bit more displeased. Justin Rougier has also been caught out by this safety car. And just ahead of Cooper Webster, Reese Lowe. And I must say, well done to whoever it was within the Just Send It team who painted that Just Send It livery. I'm going to guess it was Paul Mansell who's painted that. Yet again, another cool looking Just Send It car. They seem to look better and better each round, the Just Send It cars. So I'm really, really like that one. Be interesting to see what it looks like next week, wherever we go and in whatever car it ends up being.
Good opportunity to remind everybody that we do have the Just Painted Awards as well. So at the conclusion of each week of Just Send It, all of the participants are invited to post up photos of their liveries on the Just Send It Facebook page, and the one that gets the most likes goes into the draw to win a really cool bit of sim racing gear thanks to our official sim partner for Just Send It, SimWorks simulators.
And the man on screen, Mitchell McLeod's won the last 2 just painted awards, and he's going for a 3rd with his Spa on the Spa, or Spa at Spa. I was telling you just before we went live how far Mitchell had went. We told him to tone it back a little bit, but he actually put his driver suit to make it look like a woman in a bikini in a spa. So we did tell him to tone it back down a bit because it was a little bit too far, but it's a very, very different look to have a radical that actually looks like someone sitting inside a spa.
I'll tell you
yeah,
what,
there's a
with
few
some
other
of
ones
the-
out there too.
With some of the weather that they've had at some of the events at Spa, particularly some of the Spa 24-hour endurance races for GT cars, if you tried to race a radical in that sort of weather, you would quite literally end up with a Spa on wheels at Spa.
Your suit would be that saturated, you feel like you've just been in the sauna, and don't know about the spa, but it would be pretty hot around this circuit. I mean, I haven't got the weather details on me right now. For some reason, I haven't got it loaded up. What is it? 21 degrees on track, so it is quite cool out there. Morning conditions, so not too bad. It's not too strong a wind either, so not too bad conditions for driving out there, which means that the tyre will not be going away from the drivers too quickly either, which is always a positive in these sort of races. The pit lane will open this lap, and we're probably going to see the top 9 jump in, and the rest stay out.
So, if you're leading, do you come in now while the safety car's out, or do you wait for the race to restart, try and sprint away as far as you can out in front and take your stop under green? I'm thinking that because it is such a long pit lane here, you probably are better off pitting now while the safety car's out, so at least you've got the opportunity to catch up to the back of the train, and Josh Rogers and Ross Rizzo are both going for that exact option.
Yeah, I think you really have to jump in the pits now, just based on, as you said, that long pit lane. If we were running the GP layout with the shorter lane, maybe you could do it, but maybe someone like Rogers could do it and come back through the field and win the race. But I think for the other guys, and the length of the lane, I think you have to. Some of these guys that did pit under that, or after that first lap with issues, might have to come in and splash some fuel in as well. So there'll be a few more than that first 9, but those first 9 are all in except 2. So Luke Annette and Sean Malloy are both staying out, I should say. So Cooper Webster, although he is the first car that has pitted in the field, he's 3rd in the line, or 3rd on track at the moment. So he's going to have to do a little bit of work, but we'll go green this lap. Leave us with about 19 minutes of racing left, which should equate to around about 9 laps. Plenty of time to see some big moves and some interesting behaviour within these drivers.
So those cars that are just coming into the pits now have dropped down to around 14th and 15th positions. As you mentioned, there's a couple of cars that are still yet to pit that will be at the head of the field once we restart. They'll be the cars of Luke Annette and Sean Malloy. Now, interestingly enough, it's been a longer stop there for Josh Rogers. They were stationary for 21.5 seconds. By comparison, Ross Rizzo and Christina Nazarick, who were the first 2 cars out of that bunch of cars that pitted, they were only in the pits stationary for 8.4 and 9.1 seconds respectively. So for some reason, a very long stop there for Josh Rogers. I wonder if he's bolted on a fresh set of tyres.
I was wondering that exact thing myself, or whether he's just decided to hang back and jump back into the field and hang around with Justin Ruggiero. I know they are on Discord chatting to each other at the moment, so there is that potential that that is what they've decided to do. We could be reading that completely wrong altogether, but that could be what's happening there. It's just that they've decided to do it that way, and Rogers is just wanting to have a bit of fun back in the field and work his way back forward. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah, to me, I think he's just decided to have that bit of a longer stop, because he's not weaving the tyres like he would have put new tyres on the car, so it doesn't seem like he's done a tyre stop. Interesting that those guys at the front there, Annette and Malloy, have decided to stay out. That's a surprising move, because all they're going to do is get gobbled up into the pack, and there's not enough time under caution to save that much fuel, I don't feel anyway.
Lights are out on the safety car, so we will have a restart this time around. Just having a look at drivers who've made up a lot of positions. We do have the Best Postman Award for the driver who makes the best progress through the field. And at the moment, Will Longmore has come up 32 spots. He's come from 40th on the grid up into 9th position.
It's a good job from Will to be up that high, so he'll be quite happy with that. Now, I just want to bring your attention to something else. Have a look at who's just ahead of him. That's Brenton Hobson. On track now at the moment, he's in 8th, according to my timing. Take out the 2 drivers that haven't pitted yet. What position does that put Brenton Hobson in?
6th, as usual. The thing is, though, that as things are set to play out at the moment, if he finishes inside the top 6, then he's probably going to extend his championship lead based on the fact that Andrew Collins, who's currently 2nd in our hypothetical championship standings, is not actually running tonight. Cooper Webster currently 3rd in the series points, so he's on for a very healthy points all the way things are looking at the moment.
You don't often need to put a replay up under safety car, but we will.
Oh, you are kidding me, aren't you? Very slow, under safety car conditions.
I think he was coming up to try and scare Justin Rougier, because I know that they're on talking to each other as well. And I think he's done that a little bit of a whoopsie there. Now, the drivers ahead of Arnett are all a lap down, so they will go on by. And as we said before, the green flag does not come out until the drivers get up out of La Source and the run up to Eau Rouge. So drivers at the back of the field have to be careful here to not overtake. Of course, you can't overtake before the green flag or else you do get penalised. So drivers need to hold it back a little bit, and they're all realising, hang on, we haven't gone green yet. So we'll wait for the green flag to fly. And here we go, they're getting it now.
This is going to be a pretty hectic restart with some of those lapped cars at the front of the field, but we are back underway for Just Send It, week 7 of season 2. We're right on board with Cooper Webster, who is the effective race leader, and he is side by side heading down the hill through Eau Rouge, just about manages to hang on to it.
No.
Big crash in the background there with the car spearing off to the right-hand side of the circuit. That was Sean Malloy. That was one of the cars that hadn't pitted and was running in 2nd position at the time, but he's been speared off to the side of the circuit. You can see there Cooper Webster going for the overtaking manoeuvre. Sean Malloy getting out into the dirty part of the racetrack and wiping back across the front of another competitor and hard into the time wall.
Yeah, I think that other competitor was Emerson Harvey, so watch on board here. I don't think there was actually contact there as well. I think Malloy just might have got a little bit frightened, and Emerson Harvey, I think, just went out in... he just decided he might as well run off the circuit there. I think in the end he was not going to be able to hold on. But battle for effective lead is on. Chris Owen just behind these 2 guys on screen, Cooper Webster and Cody Bircher. Job Stewart not far away as well. Hobson, Postlethwaite, Lewis Pillow-Gallon, they're all not far away from this lead group as well. So this is going to be an intense little fight as around in the front is a lap car. That is Brenton West. And these guys have done a great job to avoid it. No, Job Stewart hasn't avoided it.
So Job Stewart's been caught up in that crash, and he's got massive damage to his Radical SR8. Here's what it looks like on board for Job Stewart, minding his own business. Oh, when he almost avoided it, but I think he got a shunt from behind as well. There was another car that would have been following him quite closely behind at the time, I'm pretty sure, because there's obviously damage to the rear of his car as well, or else he's just jumped on the brakes and the back end of his car's given way altogether. This replay will tell the story. No, there wasn't actually a car behind Job Stewart, so it's just as he's gone left to try and avoid those spinning cars. Unfortunately, he's gone out of control and hit the wall.
Now, former race leader Luke Annett's been turned around at turn 1. Hobson, oh no! Upside down goes Glenn Postlethwaite. It's going to continue on. Dave Oliver also around. This has just been mayhem in that La Source.
Well, we knew that the La Source hairpin was going to be the action zone, and capitalising on all of the carnage, Josh Rogers back up to 4th position already, having restarted outside the top 10. His racecraft has been superb, but his awareness and his ability to see those incidents happening in front and to be able to avoid them has been absolutely first class.
The issue that he's got now is that those lead 2, that is now Cooper Webster and Chris Owen, because involved, as we said before, was Job Stewart. And also seen Cody Birch's dropped all the way down the timing sheets too, so he was around in that incident that we saw at turn 1. They're 4 seconds up the road, so these 3, which Rogers has already broken away from Hobson. This next group now have to be careful, otherwise those lead 2 are just going to break away. But Chris Owen is looking really strong here. I don't think this is settled. Cooper Webster, remember, he's got that little bit of damage from the bump drafting we saw earlier with he and Ross Rizzo. He could be down a little bit on straight line speed.
What these two have to do at the moment, though, Cooper Webster and Chris Owen, is not battle one another too aggressively, because if they do, all they are going to achieve is to slow each other down, which will allow Josh Rogers to close in. And we know that Josh Rogers is seriously quick, so they have to cooperate here, these two. They have to work together, and they have to try and do the best lap times that they can so that Rogers doesn't close in too rapidly.
And he already is. He's got the gap down from, I think it was 2.9 seconds when I looked at it, up through Pouon. It's now down to 2.4, so he is flying along. But at the front of the field, Chris Owen might take the lead of the race here, around the outside, and that's going to be moved done. Chris Owen will take the lead for the next lap. I think we've got 7 laps of racing to go. I hope it stays this exciting for the next 7, because this is going to be on for the entirety of this race.
And look at Cooper Webster trying to fight back. Chris Owen has to defend into the LaSource hairpin. Cooper Webster will have the advantage of the slipstream as they head up out of Eau Rouge and onto the Kemmel Straight once again. Look at Webster. Look at the advantages that he gets from the draft. They'll be side by side as they head down into Eau Rouge. Webster decides that discretion is the better part of valor, tucks back in behind Owen, decides that he'd rather be in the slipstream when they get onto the Kemmel Straight. And look at the power of the slipstream. Webster gets the run. He has the better straight line speed. He'll be on the outside though as they head down into Lacombe, the right-hander, and Josh Rogers is railing them in all the time. Cooper Webster has made that move through around the outside of Chris Owen to recapture the lead.
Yeah, and Rogers is right there. He's in draft now too. There's another car in between them, so they'll be helping him drag that car along. Have a look at the live gap on screen. It's down to 0.7 of a second. In under a lap, he's gained nearly 2 seconds. That's incredible pace from Josh Rogers. Last lap by a 2:12. 2:12.7 he did last lap. That's incredible. How can he go that fast?
And especially considering that he had to negotiate a laps car as well, as we've got another incident involving a couple of other cars. Justin Rougier was one of the cars that was involved in that contretop. Oh, he's gone wide on his own, Justin Rougier, and as he's come back onto the circuit, he's clipped another car. Ross Rizzo spinning out on his own as well.
Unfortunate there for Rizzo, because we saw he was in that lead battle with Cooper Webster earlier on, so Ross Rizzo out. I must say that we have lost a lot of drivers in this race. I've never seen the attrition rate this bad in these races. We've seen quite a few races end with a lot of drivers out, but I don't think we've seen this many out in only half an hour. As Chris Owen having another look around the outside, coming up to the bus stop chicane.
Here comes Josh Rogers. It's now a three-way battle for the lead. Josh Rogers has closed right in. It's Owen who goes back to the front coming out of the bus stop, but Josh Rogers, great exit from the corner. He'll move up into second position. Could even have a crack at the lead when they get to the LaSource hairpin. No, decides that he's going to just sit behind Chris Owen for the time being and be in the right position to take advantage of the slipstream on the Kemmel Straight.
And he's actually registered the official fastest lap of the race now, 2:12.8. Not his fastest lap, but the fastest official lap. I can't see anyone else's official fastest laps other than Chris Owen and Ross Rizzo in the 13s, and he's in the 12s, so he is by far the fastest, but 3 wide down the Kemmel Straight. I don't know who's going to be the big ballsy breaker here, because this is going to be very, very outrageous. Around the outside, if you don't mind, Josh Rogers takes the lead.
How confident was Josh Rogers under brakes? He was on the extreme outside of the circuit as Cooper Webster and Chris Owen continue their ding-dong battle for what is now second position. Chris Owen just stays in front of Cooper Webster. Webster back down the inside. He'll be on the wrong side of the road when they get to the next left-hander, though. And just to illustrate...
Oh no!
Contact between Chris Owen and Cooper Webster, the cars that were battling ferociously. The second and third position, they've taken each other out.
We knew that they were battling hard, but I didn't expect to see them both in the wall. Wow. So Chris Owen, I'm fairly sure there was contact listing from the onboard. Just trying to get the camera back around the right way. Has there been contact? Tiniest little bit, but I think Owen might have already had it lost before then. Car in the background went around in sympathy, but that's just an unfortunate incident. As they've all gone around. Owen has resumed in 5th, but Cooper Webster is out of the race. Race done, unfortunately. Somehow Rogers has now got a 6.5 second lead.
So we've now only got, I think, 16 cars left in the race. You were talking before about the high attrition rate. It's been unbelievably high, and here's the battle for what is now the podium positions. Joseph Jesus the 4th, and Brenton Hobson battling it out. Brenton Hobson potentially on for a very strong second place finish here, which will put more valuable points in the bank for the hypothetical championship. And Mitchell McLeod's got his Radical back into podium contention as well.
Yeah, he's just kept it out of trouble in that last little bit. I mean, probably looked a little bit scary when he had Josh Rogers there and they made it 3 wide, and Rogers forced a gap that probably wasn't really there and was very, very aggressive. But now Hobson, the Jesus and McLeod all in this little fight for the podium spots. Any of them could get this too, because we know how much draft plays a big factor, even coming into the bus stop. So we'll probably see all of them in all different combinations of positions over the next 8 minutes.
And it's Joseph DeJesus who has the better run around the outside through Lacombe. Holds on to second position in the very nicely liveried Martini coloured Radical. That's been a beautifully presented car tonight, that one.
Yeah, very, very good look. It's hard to have a bad looking Martini livery on a car, isn't it? I don't think I've ever seen one. A car that has a Martini livery where the colour combination doesn't work. Yeah, the Synergy Sim Racing cars from Brenton Hobson always look very, very smart as well. So, another contender again for Paint of the Week. We had Hobson, or Hobbo, put his car up for contention last week. I think it finished 2nd, so hard to go past McLeod's Just Send It Ferrari last week though.
So officially, Jay, out of the 43 cars that started this race, the number that we've still got running out on the track at the moment, 14. Just goes to show how high the attrition rate's been. And guess who's on target to win the Best Postman Award tonight?
Well, it probably would have to be Will Long. Oh, Josh Rogers, I'm guessing now.
No.
Oh, no, Will Longmore?
No. Nope. It's actually Race Low.
Oh, no. Well, he's just spun, so he might lose a spot here.
Just as I made that point about the fact that he was going to get the Best Postman Award, if that's not the commentator's curse, I don't know what is.
I think we need a replay of that, though. I mean, if he's lost it, we have to get a replay. It's only fair. See what he's done with his Lego head. He's just looped it all by himself.
So he started last on the grid out of 43rd position, and he made his way up into 9th spot. And believe it or not, that spin didn't actually cost him any positions. So still looking pretty good for the Best Postman Award as things stand at the moment.
Chris Owen still found himself in a battle with Cody Bircher, but we're going to have to cut away from that because they are bump drafting down the Kemmel Straight. McLeod with the run. Now DeJesus trying to get some draft as well. Oh no, this could get messy.
Spa on wheels is bubbling away very nicely, isn't it?
Oh, good pun, well done. I'm going to pay you that one.
Around the outside he goes. Mitchell McLeod. Late under brakes. Heading into the right-hander at Brussels and gets the job done. So Mitchell McLeod up into 2nd position.
So there's not many of those rear wings that look like they're straight there. All the mounts on nearly every car are bent just from nose to tail contact throughout this field. Hobson's looks straight, but I don't think there's anyone else in the field that might have straight supports in that fashion because everyone has bumped into another car at some point.
I bet Garth Walden from GWR Australia wishes that he could be doing all of the repair work on the Radicals in this race. He'd have to employ about another extra 20 staff members to get it all done.
That's just for this race. It's been some very, very big damage throughout. I must say, we said before that we had 14 drivers left. We've now then got 13 in that top group. Now we've got one all the way back in 22nd. Jonathan Bykoff's decided to get back out there and have a little bit more of a drive, which is always good to see. We like to see drivers that keep fighting even though they're back down in the field. They just get back out there and have a go, and it doesn't matter where they finish as long as they're having fun.
This battle continues. This is turning into a really entertaining contest for positions 2, 3 and 4. Brenton Hobson back down the inside of Mitchell McLeod coming out of the bus stop. Joseph DeJays sitting there in 4th position at the moment. We'll still have probably 3 laps remaining, I would imagine, in this race. I still reckon that you'd rather not be leading a pack of cars coming out of the La Source hairpin, because you are just going to get slipstreamed all the way up the Kemmel Straight.
You'd probably only be happy to lead there after the checkered flags come out, because any other time, as you said, you're not going to be leading coming up through Lacombe and all of that area down this far end of the track, because as you can see, the draft and the double draft is huge. Have a look at the run that Jesus has got here. He's going to get a 2-for-1 offer at the supermarket. And up into 2nd from 4th. McLeod gains nothing out of that.
It was like the waves parting for DeJays there, wasn't it? As he moves on into position 2.
You're on fire tonight. The sea parting and the spa bubbling away. Oh, your pun game's quite on. You really are warming up for the Bathurst 12 hour.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Maybe it's better that I get them all out of my system now before we get to the
exactly.
12 hour.
Get the bad ones out of the system now before you get there.
So DeJays is now up into 2nd position. Big flames belching out the tailpipe of that car. As they head down into Blanchemont, this is another slipstreaming opportunity. We've seen some good overtaking manoeuvres into the bus stop chicane in this race as well. This battle for positions 2, 3 and 4, you just get the feeling it's not going to be resolved until we get to the very last lap. Josh Rogers out in front, for those of you who are wondering. He's gone. He has got a 13.5 second margin over this battle group, so he has well and truly checked out. As we see that DeJays is going to get shuffled back a couple of spots. McLeod and Hobson both making the move through on the Martini car.
I don't think he's upset about it either. I think he's happy to be that fourth position, the 3rd car back, to start the lap, because when he does, he gets to run up to lead the group coming up into the last phase of the race, and last phase of the lap, I should say. In saying that, he's just got a horrible run out of La Source, so he might not do as well as he has previous laps. But
this will be the 2nd to last lap as well.
Yeah, it will. And what I was going to say is I don't think he minds being the 3rd in the row, because then when it comes to that last lap, he now knows where the other cars are stronger and can try and defend and hold on for a potential 2nd position. But have a look at the run that Hobson's got. Live speed says he's around about 4 kilometres an hour faster as he's past McLeod. Then McLeod tucks in the draft and gains all of that speed straight back. Incredible, these cars.
You can see the ground that DeJays has made up there as well. Even though he had the bad run out of La Source, just the sheer power of that slipstream, he was able to make up substantial room on the cars ahead.
It didn't take him long to get that gap back, did it?
No, so this is really where our attention's focused at the moment. This is the best battle on the racetrack at this stage. Running through the rest of the top 10, Cody Birch there in position 5 at the moment. Ahead of Dave Oliver, Chris Owen, Will Longmore, Reece Lowe and Christina Nazarick rounding out the top 10.
And Jonathan Bykoff's determination to continue on has paid off, because he's now up into 14th. When I last looked, he was in 25th. So just gaining a few spots just by sticking it out and keeping on going. He's just past Cooper Webster in the timing.
And so with the point system that I'm using for the hypothetical championship, with points awarded all the way down to 30th position, every position that you can gain does count, so it's well and truly getting back out there and soldiering on if you have the opportunity to do so.
So Josh Rogers will get the white flag as he crosses the line now, but these three are going to continue on and fight all the way to the end.
I reckon that Joseph to Jesus is in the prime position here. He's reeled back in a lot of the margin that he lost with that slightly slow run out of the source, but he really needs to nail it this time through. He can't afford to make that same sort of mistake again. If he can get a good exit from this hairpin, he will be well placed to be in the slipstream with the 2 cars ahead as they begin this last lap. And he has got a better exit this time, Joseph to Jesus, so they could well sweep past both Brenton Hobson and Mitchell McLeod when they get onto the Kemmel Straight.
Might be a little bit tougher though than previously because being the last lap, these guys will know it's the last lap. Clock is officially at 0. May not be as easy, but McLeod and Hobson side by side, this could get messy.
Soon get into the braking zone for Lacombe. And it's Mitch McLeod who brakes very late just to make sure that Hobson's got no opportunity to slip down the inside. To Jesus wasn't quite close enough to be able to get past either of them.
Oh, McLeod's ruined all of that hard work though. He's gone way too deep. And now we'll have to hold on up through Jackie. It's the former corner with no name. Now has a name.
And Brenton Hobson there saw that McLeod had made the mistake, but he got a bit sucked into that and got back on the power a bit too hard too early, and he had a sideways moment as well. So that meant that he wasn't able to get down the inside and capitalise on that mistake from Mitch McLeod.
Seen Chris Owen, unfortunately, has been disqualified from the race. He had a meatball flag and didn't serve it in time. He was hoping that the race would have been 1 lap less. Unfortunately for him, it has continued on, and he will be the last car on the lead lap to be scored. But what a race from Josh Rogers. Started way back in the field.
What a drive it's been from Josh Rogers. Started back in the pack, had to fight his way forward. Got trapped by the safety car, had to pit, had to work his way to the front again. But he's done it in style. We've watched an absolute masterclass tonight from one of the best sim races in the world. And he's going to take a comprehensive victory for Week 7. Season 2 of Just Send It. The battle for second position is going to come right down to the last corner between Brenton Hobson, Mitchell McLeod and Joseph to Jesus, and it will be Brenton Hobson who gets to the line in second position just ahead of Mitchell McLeod. Joseph to Jesus finishing up in position 4. Great finish and a great battle in the second half of the race between those 3 cars. And a crash for Dave Oliver on the final lap at Franchemont. What has happened here?
So he was battling with Cody Bircher there, and I think he's tried to go around the outside and he's ended up in the wall. Oh, hip check.
Oh, there was definitely contact between the 2 cars, and Oliver comes off second best.
Probably the one corner in the world that you don't want to make contact with another car. That and the entry to the chase, probably the 2 corners you don't want to make contact with another car. That's scary. Glad it's sim racing because that's a heavy hit. Dave Oliver has finished in 6th position though. Reese Lowe, I have a feeling he's out of fuel.
You are kidding me. He'd done all of that work, come from 43rd on the grid up to 9th position, and his race is going to finish like this? That is ridiculous.
No, I think he's actually just got that much damage.
Look at the angle of the steering wheel on it.
Yeah, he's not coping too well with that car. He's when you say that a car's crabbing, he isn't crabbing, he's just got crabs. You heard it here first, Reese Lowe's got crabs. I'm allowed to say that, aren't I? I just did.
I'm not going to comment any more on that one. I'm going to leave that one well.
I'm the one that's going to get in trouble for that one. I'll take it. But I don't think he's even going to finish the race. He's just decided to do donuts. So yeah, he's done.
So that actually means that our Best Postman Award's going to go to Will Longmore, who has come up into 7th position after starting 41st.
Congratulations to Will.
Well, that was an eventful evening, wasn't it, for the Radicals at Spa? I just cannot believe the attrition rate tonight.
I'm surprised that it was that bad. It's incredible. Like, you look at the time, we've only got 8 cars left on the lead lap in the end. Oh, no, Reese Lowe actually looks like... No, he didn't finish. Didn't cross the line in time. So he's actually come in behind Chris Owen, who got disqualified. So he's in 10th.
So 8 cars on the lead lap, and only 14 actually got classified. No, only 13 actually got classified as finishes there at the end. So a massively high attrition rate. but just goes to show the class of Josh Rogers, just the way that he carved his way through the field, the way that he overtook people and effortlessly worked his way to the front. He made it look easy.
It's just the Josh Rogers way. He just makes it always look easy. He just has no issues at all. He just continues on and battles away and somehow makes moves that nobody else can. Just the way he drove it so deep into the, like, down the Camel Straight, just so deep on the brakes. He just didn't care. He was just straight in there and going to take positions away. So well done and well deserved to Josh Rogers. I mean, based on the pace he had, he deserved to win that race. So at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to see the fastest guy win the race, and we've seen it tonight.
I think it was good going back to the traditional format as well. I do like the 40-minute with compulsory pit stop and safety car, and I definitely like the concept of having the power of safety car deployment in the hands of the commentators. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was a more enjoyable format from our perspective. Let us know in the chat whether you're watching us on Facebook, Twitch, or on YouTube. Let us know what you think about the format, whether you prefer this format. It may not have been the best car track combination for the format, but the format itself I think was much better. And wherever we go next week, we're going to see something completely different, as we do each and every week. Maybe we might be able to have a little bit of a sway in what the combination is next week. That might give us a little bit more power. Maybe.
Well, next week will be the last edition of Just Send It before the Bathurst 12 hour as well. So it'll be interesting to see if some of our Bathurst 12 hour real life competitors take the opportunity just to get a bit of practice on sim racing before the big international endurance race at Mount Panorama.
Maybe it will be at Bathurst next week because of that. Of course, we saw when the announcement for the TCR race at Bathurst came out that we raced the TCR car at Bathurst. Maybe we'll say, hey, let's race at Bathurst next week.
And of course, Trent Harrison and Glenn Wood, two of the main organisers behind the Just Send It series, are drivers who both have previous experience at the Bathurst 12 hour as well. But we hope you enjoyed all of the action from the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for Week 7, Season 2 of Just Send It. My thanks to my co-commentator, Jay Kennedy, and the entire team at SimSpeed TV. On behalf of everybody in the Just Send It series, I'm Lachlan Mansell. Good night. See you next week. Bye for now.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gentle. Fuck yeah.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a car that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Brilliant. Look at defense by Ethan Grigault, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins Week 9 here at Sebring. Through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. He's just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa. That's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
what a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and